Brock. Brock can actually use 5 heals in red, blue, and yellow. This makes him the only Pokemon trainer to ever use more than 4 bag items in one duel. A brief appearance in Super Smash Bros. As a trophy, instead of her usual clothes, she actually wears her anime clothing. In the battle against Lieutenant Surge in Pokemon Yellow, it is the only time a gym leader will actually use one opposing Pokemon. This is due to the game's mimicking the anime in this case by only using, well, Raichu. In every battle against Erika, at least one of the Pokemon knows a sleep-inducing move, which is very annoying. Koga, who's a gym leader as well as an Elite Four member, was actually the first Elite Four member who was introduced in an earlier generation and then attained the title in a later generation. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, 2 of Sabrina's post-battle quotes seem to have accidentally been swapped, with her talking about psychic powers after giving the player TM04 instead of describing the TM, which she only does if spoken to again afterwards. As for Blaine, in Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, a rare glitch can occur where he will use a super potion on a Pokemon he just sent out despite them being at full health already. The final gym leader, of course, in Pokemon's Kanto region is Giovanni. Now, in the English version of Pokemon Stadium, his name is actually misspelled as Giovanni, with one N. This is because the space for trainer names only allows 7 characters, whilst, of course, Giovanni's has 8. Moving into Johto, we have Faulkner. Now, in Generation 2, Faulkner is the only gym leader who cannot give out a TM that contains a move of his gym's specialty type, because no flying type TM actually existed in Generation 2. Bugsy in Pokemon Stadium 2 is really interesting. Bugsy incorrectly refers to his Heracross Megahorn as Megaphone, which is fair enough. Whitney is the only gym leader whose team's moveset do not alter between Generation 2 and Generation 4, although their levels do alter. Before Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, Morty was supposed to have blue bright clothes, and he did in the manga and anime, but was redesigned before the release of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. As for Chuck, in Generation 2, both Chuck and Price's weakest Pokemon are at the same level, level 27. Jasmine is the first trainer known to have changed her type specialization overall, the second being Bead, and of course we can't forget about, I guess technically, if we're gonna include him in this list, would be Larry from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Price is the only gym leader who's actually forfeited a battle to Ash Ketchum in the anime. Claire in Pokemon Gold and Silver is interesting. If the player obtains a Dragon Fang through trading before obtaining one from the Dragon's Den, and then shows it to Claire, she will accuse the player of trying to cheat and not give them the Rising Badge, which is kind of goofy. Since Blue was also somewhat of a gym leader in Heart Gold Soul Silver, his level 60 Pidgeot in Heart Gold Soul Silver is the highest level Pokemon used by a gym leader outside of rematch battles. Roxanne is the only gym leader who uses all fossil Pokemon evolution lines at the same time of her release, aka Gen 3. Brawly. Now, before being battled in the French version of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Brawly says, I can't really say this word, but basically it's a direct reference to Twitch Plays Pokemon. Watson is the only gym leader in Ruby and Sapphire without a single Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. This was changed in Emerald, with Electrike being added and Manectric were added to his initial roster. There is the only Hoenn gym leader whose team changes between Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, Norman. In the Gen 3 Hoenn games, a NPC says that Norman and his family are from Johto, and later in Black and White 2, he says he is from Olivine City, which proves that he is, at the start of the Hoenn games, actually moving here, or rather you as the player are moving to Johto, to Hoenn from Johto, which is kind of strange. As for Winona, in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, Winona owns an Altaria that owns Dragon Dance, which Altaria does not learn until level 40, but hers is only level 30. Tate and Lisa. Now, in the Hoenn Leaders Tournament, Tate and Lisa, instead of serving as a team, compete without each other, so they're not together, they're separate. Wallace is the only gym leader to hand out a HM as a prize for defeating him. Now, Juan is the other gym leader that actually exists within Emerald, I guess, but either way, in the anime, his Goldeen knows Water Gun, a move it could not learn actually in the games at the time of his anime appearance during Generation 3. Roark, well, he's the first gym leader in Sinnoh, but what else do we know about him? Well, he and his father's badges are references to the term coal mine. Additionally, mines are located in or near their respective towns, so the Ouroboros mine and the Iron Island, which was once a mine as well. Gardenia is said to be afraid of the possibility of the existence of a grass ghost Pokemon, as new Pokemon species with such type combinations were introduced from Generation 5 and onwards. Fantina. Now, during the gym battle in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Fantina basically says, "Never give up, never surrender." Now, this is actually a catchphrase from the 1999 science fiction comedy Galaxy Quest. In Pokemon Platinum, Maylene is also the only gym leader that never uses any kind of potion or full restore during the battle in both gym and the battleground, possibly due to the move Drain Punch being a part of her utility. Crasher Wake is the only gym leader who doesn't present himself with his real name, but rather his stage name or his persona. Byron's Aggron has an illegal move combination in Pokemon Black and White 2, where it knows Head Smash and Dragon Rush. While Aggron can learn these two moves by breeding, it cannot learn both simultaneously, and it can receive Head Smash only from the Cranidos family and Dragon Rush only from the Gible family, so it's a weird, illegal Pokemon. Now, Candice in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl is interesting. Candice is the only gym leader to actually use two Pokemon within the same evolutionary line on her team, Snover and Abomasnow. Volkner in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is also kind of interesting. Volkner's Luxury actually knows Play Rough, which it cannot legitimately learn in those games. It's only able to learn it via the TR90 in Sword and Shield, and it will not maintain it if transferred to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl via Pokemon Home. So basically, he can have Play Rough on it, which is literally not possible. Then we have Unova, and we're going to start off with Chili, Ceylon, and Cress. Well, they're really interesting because they're all three there, so we have to have a fact for all of them. But basically, they are the only gym leaders who don't help you at Ent's Castle, which makes them cowards. They're also the things in terms of their names. So Chili, pretty obvious, it's Chili. Cress is Watercress, and then Ceylon is Cilantro. So they're all kind of related to the three elements. Now, Sharon or Sharon in Black and White, whenever the player defeats Sharon, he always leaves in the direction of the player's next objective. This is the opposite of Bianca, who always heads in the direction that the player just came from. Lenora is the only gym leader introduced in Black and White that cannot be battled outside the Pokemon World Tournament in Black 2 and White 2. Roxy, now her base is styled similarly to the Venipede evolutionary family, which is kind of cool. Burge uses an illegal Excelgor in Pokemon Black and White 2. Now during the Unova Leaders Tournament, this Excelgor knows both the moves Spikes and Guard Split, both of which are only able to be learned by breeding. However, it should be unable to learn them simultaneously, it's just like the previous one, as it can receive Guard Split only from Shuckle, while it must get Spikes from the Pineco family. Alessa is the only returning gym leader from Black and White to actually receive a redesign in Black and White 2. As for Clay, he actually has the same team in the game that he has in the anime as well, which sometimes can be quite rare. As for Skyla, basically in Black and White 2, she has a funny animation where her leg band disappears and reappears, which is random. Bryson is the only gym leader who has a pure Ice-type team and no secondary typings. As for Drayden and Iris, they have the exact same team and moveset except for their genders, where Drayden has only male and Iris has only females. As for Marlon, he's actually voiced by Ed Paul, who also voices James from Team Rocket, Giovanni, Flint, and Santa Claus. Yes, he actually voices Santa in the anime as well, which is kind of an interesting random fact. In Kalos, we start off with Viola. Viola was actually supposed to have a ponytail, but doesn't, but just in the anime she does, which is also strange. Grant, well, he was actually the first rock-type gym leader who wasn't also the first one you battle, which, hey, made him the second one. Corinna, now she is the only gym leader who has two pieces of Versus art, one for the Mega Evolution and one for the gym battle. Ramos's title in Japanese is specifically the old tree that still blooms. As for Clement, now Professor Kukui says that a famous engineer in Kalos made the Rotomdex, which is most likely Clement, and this is confirmed as we can see Clement in the Rotomdex artwork, which implies he invented the Rotomdex as well. Valerie, now in Pokemon Masters EX, Erica says that Valerie's dress costs 500 big pearls, which translates to just over, I mean, this is ridiculous, 2 million Pokédollars. Her dress costs 2 million Pokédollars. Do you know how many bikes I can buy for that? 2. Then you have Olympia, and the thing with her is she actually speaks entirely in haikus, which is really strange, but basically a haiku is a Japanese poem of 17 syllables in 3 lines of 5, 7, and 5. and traditionally basically evokes the image of a natural world. It's really weird, but nonetheless, she speaks this way. Wulfric is the last gym leader which Ash had to face in an official gym battle. Next, we go to Galar, because Alola didn't technically have gyms, so we're just gonna skip over that for now. Either way, Galar is interesting. So, first up is Milo. Milo has the highest level Pokemon out of all the first gym leaders, being his Eldegoss at level 20. Then there is Nessa. Now, she changes her Dreadnought during her battle. In her gym battle, Dreadnought is male and has Swift Swim and Dynamax. Meanwhile, her Galar Tournament Dreadnought is female and has Shell Armor and Gigantamaxes, which is strange, so she just got a brand new one. Kabu is the Fire-type gym leader, and interestingly, he's the only gym leader who isn't native to Galar, as he's native to Hoenn. That's where he's actually from, possibly even related to Flannery. B is interesting. In her trainer card, we can see she is admiring someone. Some say it's her significant other, but we will never know. But basically, she has a secret crush. Alistair is next. In his trainer card, he takes off his mask and looks sad as always, but we can see he's also left-handed from this. Opal. Now, she's the oldest gym leader, being 88 years old, which is, wow, pretty crazy. Next, we have Beedee. Now, he's the second gym leader to change his type from Psychic to Fairy, the other being Jasmine, who goes from Rock to Steel. Then we have Jordy. His name comes from Gordo, which means fat, which is a bit harsh, but yeah, I mean, hey, whatever you want to go for. Melanie. Now, she is actually the mother of Jordy, and she has 4 other children who are unspecified within the story. Then there is Piers. He's the first Dark-type gym leader, and his Obstagoon has maxed EVs in the defense stat. Then, of course, there is Raihan. Now, his uniform is based off of Lance's uniform from Heart Gold and Soul Silver in terms of the colors, and this is further than referenced in the anime as well. And finally, we reach Paldea. We start things up with Catty. She has a logo on her apron, but in Scarlet and Violet reveal trailer, it shows a different logo, probably an unused version. Brassius is the only gym leader who doesn't have a Pokeball in his hand right before it is sent out, which is strange. Iono, despite having a Magnemite toy on her head, she doesn't actually use one or any of its evolutionary lines anywhere in the games, which is kind of strange. You would expect her to have at least one of them. Tofu is actually Catty's teacher and knows how to bake, but other than that, he's a seafood chef, so he captures water-type Pokemon to cook them mostly rather than train them to battle, which is pretty brutal. Larry is interesting. He's the first gym leader, I guess, who both serves as a gym leader and as an Elite Four member at the same time. So he's simultaneously both things, which is the first time that's ever happened. Then we have Rhyme. Now, her hair actually resembles a skeleton hand, which actually fits perfectly by the fact that she uses Ghost-type Pokemon as her specialty. As for Tulip, she is interesting. She has Fighting and Fairy types, who are also Psychic, to counter all possible Dark types trying to counter her, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. And Grusha is actually the second gym leader, first one being Blaine, whose gym isn't in a town or a city, but just in the mountains.